study hacks, and quick and easy shortcuts for learning are all over the internet. And one of the most common clickbaity titles is "Why I Stopped Going to Class and So Should You." Everyone would love to do this. It sounds like a dream. Study and learn at home. The truth is that it does work for some students, but those students are the exception, not the norm. Let's talk about why this is the case by diving into a few study strategies to help you more effectively study online. If it's your first time here, I'm Jack Wang. I'm a science educator and microbiologist, and this channel focuses on studying in science and learning transferable skills applicable to all sorts of career pathways. Let's talk about some data from my own experiences over 10 years teaching a large undergraduate microbiology course with about 400 students. Over those 10 years, all of the lectures that we give are recorded as videos, and those videos are uploaded for students to watch anytime they like. Now, these lecture recordings were not originally designed to replace in-class attendance, but look, I get it. Life is busy, you've got bills to pay. 10% of the class is choosing to attend in person. So the majority of the students aren't coming to class and they're not watching the videos either.
Hi, future me here, back home now. That was very late at night, so I forgot to show you the actual data. You can see views per lecture video on the y-axis, and as we move through the semester, the views start dropping. They never go back up, even during exams. And this data is from 2019, pre-COVID, so even when students had a choice, they weren't coming to class in person or watching the videos either.
Online learning is very difficult to sustain when you're studying by yourself in your own time, and it's not something that a new learner or a new university student can do very effectively. It takes a very mature learner with responsibilities and time management skills and clear priorities to be able to balance this self-directed study online in their own time. But very few students coming straight from high school have all of those things. And in fact, studying at university for students straight out of high school is so much more and needs to be so much more than just the qualification or the piece of paper at the end. You need to form social networks, find friends, establish a community, and find who you are. All of those things can't be given to you by watching a video online. Now, of course, it may not be your choice to study online. It could be financial factors, geographical factors, medical reasons, family responsibilities. So today, let's actually talk about a few ways of making that online studying process more efficient and avoid unforced errors that are getting in your way of succeeding in your study. And the first one is an easy one. Are you studying in the same physical location as your relaxing downtime? If you have a small bedroom that you work and play out of, and you can play computer games and watch TV and Netflix from that same location, how can you expect your brain to make the switch when all of a sudden you're sitting in that same location, you're doing study instead? And you don't have to move very far for it to be a conscious decision that improves your cognitive processing of information. Instead of sitting on one side of the table, move to another side of the table and put different things there, books and notepads instead of fun things or things that communicate that it's a fun time. And that small separation will help you implicitly in your study management. Now, an outdated version of this is no TV or screens in your study room, which is just unrealistic. So much learning is online. Googling is such a powerful tool for learning, not to mention looking up things on YouTube. But there is an unforced error hidden in those screens. It's too easy to become a passive learner when you've got all these devices at your disposal. You're just reading through notes that other people have typed, watching videos other people have created, and you're not an active participant in constructing your own understanding. But if you're just passively consuming all this information without actively constructing it in some way, that really does lower your chance of having long-term retention of that information. What some students do increasingly is to use not a laptop, but use a tablet with a stylus so that they're writing the notes down by hand, but with all the convenience of digital conversion of those notes into a format that's easy to review. And once you've done that initial first pass through of notes in class, it might make sense for you to take a second pass through those notes and distill it even further. Maybe this time handwriting. That's again a more active process in helping you learn. Just sitting there reading your notes passively again and again doesn't give your brain the best chance at succeeding. Now, I teach biology, which is a discipline that has a lot of key terminology and a lot of content, and students are often overwhelmed. And the question I get asked is, which of all of these kinds of topics do I actually need to memorize for the exam? It shouldn't be a secret. The learning objectives for any well-designed course should be upfront for the course, for the learning activity, for the lecture, and there should be many practice questions and tutorial worksheets and past exams for you to allocate to each of these learning objectives. But what are you supposed to do when what you're studying has thousands of learning objectives with thousands of practice questions, a seemingly insurmountable amount to memorize. If you do need to memorize, there are well-established strategies for how to do this. And we've talked about them on the channel previously. You should be doing active recall and spaced repetition, where active recall is essentially doing practice tests again and again. Our brain is more likely to remember something and commit it to long-term memory if it's retrieving it rather than just trying to store it deliberately. Together with spaced repetition, you want to do these practice tests in intervals depending on how difficult that question is to you at that point in time. The easier the question, the longer the space and interval between the times that you're testing yourself on that topic. The harder that particular topic is, the shorter the interval. You need to keep testing yourself on a given topic until it becomes easy, and then you can space that time between tests out a little bit more. And both of these strategies are designed to combat the forgetting curve, which is the rate at which we forget newly acquired information. But I'm on the record, I'm not a fan of these strategies because they are rewarding rote, raw, robotic memorization.
Bloom's taxonomy shows how memorizing fits in with the rest of your learning. There are 6 learning goals, with remembering being the simplest of all, right down the bottom. When you go all the way to the top, this involves applying new information to new situations, connecting ideas, and evaluating or creating knowledge. The higher levels of what you need to do when you get a job, so it doesn't make sense to only focus on memorizing. Well-designed courses will have assessment that tests higher order learning, so you won't do well just by memorizing without understanding.
And in science, I want my students to be critical thinkers, so again, I'm not a fan of it. Who am I to say that you shouldn't be using them? You should use every tool you have at your disposal. Doing practice tests again and again and again, whether it be flashcards or MCQs, it becomes tedious very quickly, and you need the motivation and discipline to stick it out.
There are more sophisticated study techniques than just doing the same practice tests again and again. Let's say you've memorized most of the concepts and finished all the questions you can find. Time to write your own questions and focus on higher order learning in your question design. Not just define this term, but compare and contrast concepts A versus concepts B. Write down all the concepts you know and try to draw out the connections using flowcharts, concept maps, or mind maps. Then you're testing yourself on their connections, differences, and similarities, and your evaluation of all of this data gets you closer to higher order learning.
And discipline is not something that is innate or that you're born with. It's a skill like anything else that you can train yourself in over time. And one of the ways you can do this is using the Pomodoro technique, which is breaking up your studying into chunks, into timed intervals, say 25 minutes. And after every 25 minutes, you get a short 5-minute break, 25 minutes of study, 5 minutes break. If you do this again and again, that is a shorter burst of intense studying for you to get through, and you don't need quite as much discipline to focus for 25 minutes as opposed to 3 hours. You should see that the amount of time you can focus should get longer over time, and instead of 25-minute intervals, it becomes 35, 45 minutes, or even an hour. And all of a sudden you become much more disciplined and focused as it relates to self-directed learning.
You should also mix and match your study methods, not just the same 25 minutes of study every single time. Instead of reading and memorizing, try annotating diagrams or drawing your own. Maybe in the next 25-minute cycle, try to explain concepts out aloud rather than writing it out. Could just be to yourself. And if you film and watch your own videos over again, you engage with the content in a different mode and also learn new communication skills as well. If you're brave enough to share this with other people, even better. You can build learning communities and critique each other's explanations. Trying to teach others or using the Feynman technique is one of the quickest ways of finding out the gaps in your own knowledge.
The other part of this is, again, avoiding unforced errors. Are you pulling all-nighters? You shouldn't be. Are you eating very terribly? You shouldn't be. Are you getting some regular exercise, whatever that may be for you? Then that's a few more unforced errors that you don't have to make. That's all well and good, but what if you absolutely hate what you're doing and what you're studying? Or even worse, you feel nothing towards it. It just gives you a sense of apathy. Never too early to go and speak to your teachers or to your mentors or career counselors to try and see the forest for the trees. Not knowing where you're going or dreading the direction that you're heading in is a very insidious feeling, and we all need help to figure this out. It's much easier to stay mindful and motivated in the moment, to focus on your study, if you can see the potential final destinations ahead of you. This is the BioLab Collective. I'm Jack Wang, and I'll see you in the next video.